Closely observe the posture of the model standing in front. Read the expression, the profile, the angles, the muscles, and the placement of arm and legs, and the way the body is twisted. These observations are the crucial elements to bring out the exact character of the model being sketched. These lines, proportions, and even foreshortening of limbs help in bringing out a meaningful entity which one calls a sketch or drawing. The model is standing with his back towards the artist, the arms stretched sideways and placed in the wall in an angle, making one hand higher than the other. This pose pulls the shoulder muscles. One needs to study the dents and pulls in the upper body, the raise of shoulders and the curves it is creating. A slight shading with pencil can reflect the shadows and indentation of the body. After creating a rough sketch of the torso, draw the line of the shorts the model is wearing. It is boldly dividing the body into two parts. Even in sketching of the hips, the formation and balance of both sides will be different because one leg is placed straight while the body is taking another shape with the second leg lifted on the block. This raising of the leg has caused foreshortening of the thigh. One can see a slight part of the thigh in curve of the shorts. That is the reason, even while drawing, that small portion is losing itself in the shadow, and the curve of the calf starts immediately after a short gap of the shorts. The foot will also be visible in an angle, and no details of the toes can be made out. Draw the straight leg now. This leg is bright than the other one due to it being in forefront and also because of the light falling on it. The raised leg just has sharp light falling on its calf muscles. The blur of the few parts of the body creates myriad impression, and that only comes up with the fusion of the senses and the intellectual. One needs to know the bone structure of human body, the curves of muscles and proportionate body parts. An artistic image is a synthesis of objective and subjective. But in this dialectical unity of object and subject, as in any other result of purposeful, cognitive, transformative activity in which man engages, we can trace a main line, a super objective, which is mastering of reality, investigation of it, and discovery of its objective laws and patterns. In reality, all the body parts are present, just placed in a particular angle, which is cause the vision to see some and also not to see a few due to weird posture. That's why even the forearm of right side has totally vanished in the sketch. While drawing the left arm also, the forearm will get shortened due to being in perspective. Just the curves and angles will imply the placement, perspective, or foreshortening. Synthesis of sensual perceptions and intricate, multi-leveled concepts in the conceptual elements of portraits, landscape, or still life. It uplifts, distracts from petty details, and activates the spectator's intellectual, emotional, and volitional complex. After creating the basic structure devoid of much details but with full indication of proportions and structure, start adding shadows by darkening few arms and adding clear and dark lines to highlight and reflect shade. Darken the outline of the facial features. One can afford to use shape and dark lines around forehead and nose as the background itself is very dark. A few lines on the beard will define the chin. and darkest tone of hair of the head will help in adding third dimension in a drawing which till now is just having a lightest and middle tone. The linear dealing of the shadows also add beauty to the sketch. The sketch is becoming clearer with each stroke and new dimensions are cropping up. Clarity and precision, the form is getting built gradually. Start building shadows on the shoulders to highlight the indentations and the muscular build of the model. One can see the tonal variation of the strokes placed for hair of the head and the shadow in the angle of the neck and shoulder. Put bold pencil strokes on the area in depth, like underarm, the muscular curves, the knickers and thighs. The rhythmic and unbroken lines will reflect the firmness of the body. Even though capacity of our mind to handle the amount of information at a time is limited, we are enabled to handle a vast amount of information without difficulty. If it comes in some order or regular shape and sequence, it is not difficult to see why regular and symmetric form are not only easy to comprehend but are also soothing. A form full of sharp turns and angularity makes one to track one's brain in an effort to comprehend it, as every sharp turns forces one to handle new information. Similarly, here too, this model's body is full of muscles and curves. These are foreshortening to be observed, along with the angular placement of the body. All this triggers the spirits and forces the mind to observe more and then intellect to help in applying dark strokes to highlight a right angle in just a few lines. define the line of the stressed hand on the left and apply a few shadows to reflect its angular placement. The muscles of the back forces the artist to observe them closely and create right tonal variations to show their bulges and depths. The folds of cloths can be ignored, and it's not important to show each and every crease of the cloth. But one can't ignore the details of the bare body. Practice and observation only stimulates the imagination and draws the mind to form its own visual statements, being aware of the impact of each and every stroke. Like Edgar Degas said, painting is not so difficult when you don't know, but when you do, it's quite a different matter. More one practices, more intricacies and knowledge will be unfolded. One learns from each and every stroke, line, and scribble. Drawing the same model in just a shade will help in exploring the same form, devoid of much details and cautious strokes. In fact, one can draw a smaller version before starting the study on a bigger format. It will help in making the vision clear and train the mind to observe the basic structure and its curves. While dealing with the sketch in linear approach, it is very important to leave the hand free. The fluency, rhythm, and pressure on the handling of pencil adds to the essence of good drawing. More scared and cautious one is, more bound and hard the sketch will appear. The knowledge about the subject makes one use it in imaginative as well as intellectual way. Vic Munich very aptly said, drawing is a way to educate your eye to understand the visual information, organizing it into a more hierarchical way, a more economical way. When you see something, if you draw often and frequently, you examine a room very differently. In the second study, the model has turned to his side with just his left arm stretched on the wall, and the second one hanging and folded in a fist. One leg is straight and the other is protruding slightly forward. Against the dark wall, the features of the model are sharply visible. The first study was in pencil, and in this, we will use tripastel or charcoal to bring out the basic structure of model. One can roughly draw the pose with slight shadows being created by using the pastel color in a flat way. Pressure on the pastel can darken or just add a middle tone to the sketch. One should be aware of the proportions commonly recommended for figure drawing, where a normal person is 7.5 heads tall, including the head. This can be illustrated to students in the classroom using paper plates to visually demonstrate the length of the bodies. An ideal figure used for an impression of nobility or grace is drawn at 8 heads tall. A heroic figure used in the depiction of goods and superheroes is 8.5 heads tall. Most of the additional length comes from a bigger chest and longer leg. These proportions are most useful for a standing model. Poses which introduce foreshortening of various body parts will cause them to differ. When one is aware of all this, then there is no risk of a form being disproportionate and appearing weird to the eyes. The practice trains the mind to draw accordingly and exploring imaginative realisms too. Vincent van Gogh rightly said, as practice makes perfect, it cannot but make progress. Each drawing one makes, each study one paints is a step forward. One will gradually realize how to create depth even through lines and learn to respond to challenges by catching up with the correspondence between feelings, form, and technique. The lighter and the darkened lines will turn out to be a reconstruction of the reality with artist's personal freedom.